All right, Hazel, please.
I don't think she realised the time over.
So welcome to Finance and Corporate for September. Apologies, I have one from Graham, and I think that's all. So could I have a mover, please?
I'll move.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Claire. All in favour? Contrary, no. That's carried. Disclosure of members' interests. Nothing on the screen and nothing down here, so we'll move on. Late items. There being none.
Not aware of any.
Right, good. So confirmation of order of meeting. We're all good as it stands, Ken? Great. Could I have a mover, please? Lou. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Elwyn. All in favour? Contrary, no. It's carried. Confirmation of the minutes on pages 7 till whenever. I just all happy, clear, excellent. No one else? Everyone's okay, that's great. So a mover, please. Clear. Thanks, Jim. All in favour? Contrary, no. Carried. Okay. Yep. So that's. We actually had two sets of minutes there too.
I was going to say you do need to pick up the emergency ones.
Yes. Page 14. So we need to confirm the emergency meeting as well. So all happy? I'll see who's on the screen would like to move this. Roger, thanks Liz. All in favour? Contrary, no. It's carried also. Okay. Now, tab 6 or item 6, Hamilton Waikato Tourism Annual Report. Jason, welcome. We do have a space for you at the... Yeah, the blue button, that's it.
Good afternoon, councillors. Thank you very much for allowing us to come in today. Appreciate the physical distancing and those that are online as well. So I'm just presenting our annual report from 2019 actually. It says 2021. It's 2019 through to 2020 as of where we are today. So I'll take the report as read. So all the detail is provided in your report. These are just our high-level summaries. So we just pull out some of the key points we wish to focus on today. Am I pushing it right?
I'll see him.
It's okay. Brilliant, thank you. So although we've been hit by COVID, as we know, domestic visitors have been returning in flocks back into the region. We've had a bit of a blip with the Auckland lockdown, but we've managed to still recover at a level 2.5 out of Auckland. Aucklanders are still returning to the region now to do business and for holidays. So as at the end of June, tourism brought in 1.417 billion, so we have had a reduction, and I'll talk a little bit about YPA's figures shortly. Domestic, again, is still our hero, so bringing in 1.111 billion at the end of June. So we are pretty much focusing very hard on the domestic market to help us economically recover in the tourism sector. We managed to hold the 4th largest domestic visitor destination and the 5th largest international. Around 120 international visitors were still in our country post-lockdown. Some have been returned now with repatriation flights, but many still travelled throughout our region. So it was great to still have some international visitors in the region before lockdown. We have obviously 7 key performance indicators with our 7 funding councils. As you can see, I'll probably just focus on the ones this time that we haven't been able to achieve because of COVID. Visitor spend, we've had an 11% decrease across the whole region. So even though 1.417 is a very healthy visitor expenditure, again, it's still a retraction of 11% for us. Visitor awareness and perceptions have kind of stabilised at a 7.5 out of 10. So we asked people who have recently visited the Waikato or who have never visited, what's their likelihood to recommend us for a holiday destination? So 7.5 out of 10 isn't something to be sneezed at. It's still a very good figure, but again, it's just plateaued because of COVID. And then lastly, industry investment. So we have normally a $500,000 target that we must get $500,000 out of industry to help fund our activity, joint campaigns. Unfortunately, with the loss of the China group travel at the beginning of the year through to full lockdown, we were only able to achieve 323,000 of industry investment for this for last financial year. And return on investment has stabilised as well. So this is an ROI figure for every dollar of council funding invested in our organisation. We are returning 1,141 back into the regional economy. I've also provided a comparison as we do at the end of the year with how that compares to other regions. So for Auckland, for every dollar invested by Auckland Council into AT for tourism, they're returning 307, Bay of Plenty 484, Taupo 311, and Rotorua 167. So I believe we are doing a very good job, and you're getting very good value for money for the returns that we are injecting back into the tourism economy. For Waipa particularly, we also do district level ROIs. We're bringing in 1,080 back into the district economy, which is again another really good return on investment for council. So thank you for your support.
Jason, just before you move off that slide,
Yes, Roger.
and thank you. Just on the visitor spend, has there been any change of visitor spend per visitor because of the different profile?
Yes, so although overall visitor spend is down, domestic visitor spend is up and the value is higher. So we're seeing domestic visitors spend now probably double what they used to spend when they would come into the region, which is exactly what we want them to do.
Yeah, good.
They're staying in commercial accommodation, they're using rental cars and transport, and they're also doing our tourism activities and going out for hospitality. So it's yes, we are definitely seeing an increase in the physical spend amount.
Good move. Yeah, thanks.
Countries, origins, yes.
We can't hear anything in Zoom land. I'm sorry.
My usual raves.
So Councillor Barnes was just saying to those on Zoom how much safer the roads are at the moment. We'll leave it at that. But what I would say though is that we do have additional camper van traffic still on our national roads. They're mainly New Zealanders now. THL obviously released the $29 camper van deal, and we definitely saw more New Zealanders now out and about on camper vans. They're actually fully booked through till March next year right now. So expect another flurry of activity around September school holidays back into the district. Sorry, I'll go back. Visitor spend. So look, for the district, you had one of the smallest declines for the whole region. So look, unfortunately, our worst performer this last financial year was Matamata Piako District Council. They are down 20%. Look, a lot of that's international visitor expenditure, mainly generated out of Hobbiton movie set. I've just come from Aotearoa. They had the smallest decline for us as a region at 4% for their district economy. But for Waipa, again, you're only the second lowest, so well done you. 9%, we're still seeing domestic visitors again returning back into Waipa and spending more, as well as our corporate visitors. And then eventually the events, when we can have them again. I'm sure you'll hear more from Mr. Gemmell about events. But again, the district performed really well, considering that you lost field days this year, which is our biggest visitor expenditure into the region during the middle of winter. So you didn't have it during June. As you know, Peter and the team delivered it virtually online. So again, well done Waipa. You are rebounding a lot faster than other parts of our region and definitely other parts of the country compared to places like Fiordland right now who are really suffering. So everyone's coming back to Waipa. Regional tourism impact. I've talked about this during lockdown with many of you on Zoom, but look, we were obviously already impacted as a sector. Look, the big thing I will focus on right now is where our businesses are at today. We still have a number of businesses, what we call in hibernation, so they're temporarily or seasonally closed. We don't normally get visitors this time of year into the region. It's normally our quietest time, but actually we have been busy. So some of them are opening early. We still have had a massive reduction in service and staff. So again, most people now have pretty much running their business operations on what we call skeleton staff. They're only doing essential service or maintenance. Some of them are only opening 2 or 3 days a week. During school holidays, we do see all of our operators open 7 days again throughout the school holidays, which is good to see. And in touch wood, I haven't had any permanent closures right now of any of our tourism businesses. Everyone has managed to either extend the wage subsidy or go back to additional sources of income, passive investment, or a lot of people are moving into education right now. So fingers crossed we can reopen full steam this summer as well. A bit of a sector update, so eyesight review. So as you know, it's, for some of you, I think you might own or fund anyway Te Awamutu and Cambridge eyesights. Tourism New Zealand undertook a strategy review that started in July last year. They came out in May with their proposal. That was Tier 1 eyesight, so splitting eyesights into 2 tiers. Tier 1 would be 15 to 20 locations. They would be government funded, owned and operated. So very similar to the old Government Tourism Bureau days back in the 80s. At Tier 2 would be the remaining eyesights that very much what they are today. They're funded with a mix of council, community funding and run by associations or societies. We still have not heard the outcome of the strategy review. The government have not announced any funding for eyesights, so we are assuming right now that this hasn't gone anywhere, but we will hopefully find out more by October. But look, I believe we definitely needed to review our eyesights at a national level, what types of things they would offer. Here in Waikato, we have had a bit of a decline. We've lost Huntly, Hampton Downs, Tukuroa and Raglan actually closed on the 30th of June. Hamilton obviously has been scaled back to a smaller site, and Waitomo and Te Kuiti we've had a reduction of service and opening hours. So we definitely need to look at the overall strategy plan for where Tourism New Zealand sees the future of our eyesights. So hopefully we will know more during October.
Yes, Phil.
Through the chair, the South Island closure there, it was interesting that Christchurch city centre eyesight closed down, which was a really big surprise. So.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate ever since the earthquake. Obviously, their location, where they've been temporarily put to, isn't great. And to be honest, the visitor numbers haven't returned into Metro Christchurch. So the hope is, look, they would return in eyesight one day back into central Christchurch CBD. But
there's heaps of visitors in the region.
There are.
Christchurch and Canterbury. And
yes, definitely.
So, Jason, what do you see as the possibility for Waikato and the eyesights in Waikato? Because if we're looking at those that have scaled back or closed, there actually aren't that many remaining, are there? So
that's right.
What kind of representation are we going to get on that Tier 1?
But we're not sure. So Tourism New Zealand didn't tell us which regions or locations would be these Tier 1 sites. They kept saying they would be data-led, whatever that decision means. Data-led, if that's the case, to me, would be based on visitor spend and numbers. So look, Waikato would be strong. I would still see that we would require a Tier 1 eyesight in Cambridge, definitely one in Hamilton and Matamata and Waitomo. But again, unless we knew what the criteria is of what is a Tier 1 site, it's hard to comment. But those are currently probably our most busiest eyesights right now within the network.
Good, thank you.
Managed isolation facilities. Again, this wasn't a consultative process. The government went out and did a lot of research and decided on where these managed isolation facilities would be. We have 3. There's one in Waipa District at Jet Park Hamilton Airport Hotel. We have the Ibis Tainui and Distinction Hotel Te Rapa in in Hamilton. We have no quarantine facilities here. It is still only Jet Park Auckland Hotel. Tomorrow we are having a porphyry to welcome 55 new Defence Force that will be permanently located here to manage the managed isolation facilities. So at the moment, our hotels that are offering this service have a mix of private security companies there, where we've had a number of breaches they will be stood down at the end of the week and will be completely run by the Defence Force, which I believe is a stronger operational management scheme anyway for us, which is really good. Our challenge long term though is the long term impacts of being able to host major events and conferences. We are pushing with the government along with Auckland, who have 22 hotels that are now managed isolation facilities, to get these returned to trade and events in Q1 next year. We really do need it to help bolster and host events and conferences for the future, and particularly field days if we're looking at one of the biggest events for our calendar next year. Response and activities. So look, just a quick snapshot of where we are now. So obviously during lockdown we were targeting what we called hyper-local with the Mighty Local campaign, and it was really about getting more locals out and about virtually first during lockdown, and then obviously once lockdown lifted to each shop and meet locally. We're now in the regional and domestic frame of our marketing strategy at levels 2 and 3 and 1. So again, promoting inter-regional travel with our fly and drive markets, and then international, we're just maintaining what we call a visible presence. So every month we just go out to international markets to say we're still here, we're looking forward to welcoming you back, just so we don't drop off the radar when international travel finally reopens. Mighty Local, again, we pushed this quite hard during alert level 4 and 3, partnership with Te Waka, all our chambers of commerces around the region, plus all our councils, all the business associations, and also our eyesights. So again, around the contactless delivery and also virtual experiences that people could have in the safety of their home. Now at alert levels 2 and 1, we keep switching. We're still focusing really hard on Mighty Local. The reason being is a third of our businesses actually get their business from Waikato residents. So again, tourism, hospitality and accommodation, and also our venues and events, a third of the market is still Waikato residents. So good to still keep promoting and offering deals and packages for our locals to get out and about to explore. Back to attracting the domestic visitor market, which is going very well for us. So New Zealanders would normally spend $9.3 billion to go somewhere else offshore, and they would travel their own country and normally spend around 18 billion. So again, it's a big pie of money sitting there. We have managed to capture a big part of that pie. We are competing, as you know, as councils with a number of other consumer spending. People are renovating their homes, they're building new homes, they're buying new vehicles, they're buying camper vans and caravans. So we are competing with a number of other discretionary spend right now for New Zealanders. But look, domestic travel is definitely shining bright for us as we try and get more Kiwis out and about spending more. Another great thing for us is we obviously are a key drive market. 2.6 million people, as we know, live within a 3-hour drive radius of the Waipa district. So huge drive market out of Waikato, our own region. Again, they spend normally around 354 million a year within the region. Auckland's a key drive market, as well as Bay of Plenty, Taranaki and Taupo. So again, we are fortunate compared to other regions like Te Anau and Fiordland right now, who just can't switch on 2.5 million people. They have to rely on a fly market. Some interesting statistics have come out. Again, a lot of this is contained in your report, but just some highlights over Queen's birthday, which was the first graph. On the right-hand side, you really see the peak of visitors coming back into Waikato region during Queen's birthday weekend. And then on the right graph, there was a comparison of our winter school holidays this year compared to last year. We were up around 11.9%. It might not seem much, but when it came to actual visitor numbers, we were the second highest visitor destination in the country, behind Auckland for visitors during school holidays. So people are definitely returning into the region. And then lastly, a bit of an overview of the national strategy. So Tourism New Zealand no longer are obviously targeting the international market. They are purely domestic. They've been tasked by the government to permanently assist us in promoting domestic tourism. The main catch cry of the campaign is do something new, New Zealand. Most New Zealanders, when they think of a holiday, is to go to a batch or go camping for 2 weeks, shop at the supermarket and cook on a barbecue, not actually spend any money in those centres that they go and visit. So we are definitely seeing the drive to change Kiwis' behaviours around spending when they do go travelling and acting like an international traveller in their own backyard. So it's working very well for us. We have a number of regional content that goes onto the national campaign daily. Our response, we have a what we call Open for Exploration campaign, which started just before lockdown. It's using imagery through our visitors' eyes rather than our beautifully commissioned photographs These are photos that our travellers have taken when they visited our region. Again, it's about looking through a different lens at our region. People remember us maybe for a visit to Waitomo Caves when they had a young family. We want them now to return to actually see our region has changed a lot, and this is the types of things you can experience, from night sky experiences through to our region in the seasons, such as spring right now, which is glorious. We have welcome to Waikato videos. So again, all our operators did little 15 to 20-second videos on their phones saying, welcome back, you know, we've dusted off the tables, the kettle's on, the jug of beer is cold, we'd love to welcome you back to the Waikato. So that's gone really well in our visitor market and also in our trade market. And then lastly, in our conventions and meeting space, we have the Mighty Welcome campaign. So again, it's around safety, very similar to what you're doing now. We're promoting all our venues have physical distancing, contact tracing, and deep cleaning regularly, self-service with regards to food. And so we have been pushing the people side now of how we host as a region across all our conferences and events. So lastly, there's been so much government funding announced over the last few months that we've all lost track. So I've tried to do an up-to-date summary as of today of where all the government money is. So 400 million in total was allocated to tourism recovery. 286 million was given to STAP, the Strategic Tourism Assets Protection Program. We had 300 applications. 5 Waikato businesses were successful, and also the tourism got funding as well, which I'll talk about on the next slide. 17 million was allocated to the Tourism Transitions Program. That's about helping businesses through Qualmark and New Zealand Māori Tourism and our regional business partner network actually pivot to the domestic market. Nicola from our team has been seconded into Te Waka to deliver the Tourism Transitions Program for Waikato businesses for tourism. 10 million has been allocated to digital capability. No idea about this fund. Announced 2 weeks ago. No criteria, no detail yet from government or MB, so we'll find out more soon. 10 million was allocated to domestic events fund. That was a quick turnaround, 4 weeks. As a region, because 10 million across the whole country isn't a lot, it was to try and protect our domestic events in our region at least to stay open for the next 12 months. So we got around 1.12 million with ourselves, Taupo, Rotorua and Ruapehu. We were clustered together for the domestic events fund. 50 million announced last Thursday from the government on the regional events fund. This is the next exciting one for us. This is around 50 million across the country to grow existing events into what we call hero events, or develop new events to drive visitors across the country into our region for an overnight stay. As a cluster, Rotorua, Ruapehu, Taupo and ourselves have been allocated 3.75 million. The 4 of us are now getting together. We've been appointed the lead entity for the sub-region. The 4 of us are getting together, and over the next 3 months we will be developing an investment plan for MB, and hopefully we can access that funding from December for then events to apply, which will be fantastic. So we can do feasibility studies on new events. We could provide seed funding for events. We've always said, wouldn't it be great to have a X event here? Or potentially we might have one of our existing events that we really want to grow to iconic status. 10 million has been given to Māori tourism recovery, 25 million to docks concessions waiver, and lastly around 755,000 to the government's New Zealand Tourism Task Force for Futures. So that's been co-headed by Rotorua Mayor Steve Chadwick and Grant Webster, CEO of THL. So that's about reshaping the future of tourism post-lockdown. So that's all of the government funding as we know of today for tourism. They also allocated 20 million from that fund to the regional tourism organisations, including Hamilton and Waikato Tourism. It was based on local government retaining our funding for this year, so thank you. With the retention of all our funding, we were able to access 700,000 from the government to replace the loss of industry funding for the next 12 months. The funding given to us is really clear. It must be used for destination management planning, industry capability and product development and domestic marketing. So these are just a quick snapshot. There's more details in your report of some of the 27 projects that we now have to deliver over the next 12 months. So activating the Waikato River, so we're going to be able to do a feasibility study now for some new activities and events on the river. We're doing a lot of touring routes development. That's co-lab with Rotorua and Ruapehu. So looking at Thermal Explorer Highway, but also some new short drive and day itineraries across our region. We're going to have some new visitor data, and you'll love this one. Hazel. It will capture motorhomes in our region. So I'll be able to, do some monthly visitor flows with the amount of motorhomes coming in, and we're also partnering with New Zealand Motorhome and Caravan Association with regards to the members' apps and how we can track them when they're in our region too. So, and Cambridge became a motorhome friendly town, so well done. Food tourism is the next big one, collabing with Bay of Plenty, Ruapehu and Rotorua on trying to develop and tell our own food story. As you know, we're the home of dairy, but there's nowhere where really you can be showcased our dairy and the food that we produce here. So we're looking at developing those stories and products. And there's more in the report, and then literally a quick overview of all the additional domestic activity that the government funding will allow us to do. We're partnering with the Central North Island on a ski campaign now that's coming to an end. We're moving into spring, and then we'll be doing a summer campaign with all our Central North Island partners. And we're also doing a cheeky Auckland campaign, around promoting Waikato to Aucklanders to get them over the Bombays, as much as we're also going to be promoting Waikato people to go up to Auckland, who are actually our biggest decline in visitor expenditure right now. So we're both co-investing in a cheeky self-drive campaign to each region.
With the, and with the Auckland joint venture too, with having the Huntly Expressway being completed now and seeing the Hamilton one, it brings them a lot closer to.
It does bring them a lot closer.
Makes it a lot easier.
That's right. And the new rail service, obviously the new rail service, which was meant to begin at the end of this year, so it's scheduled for February to Huia. We've just signed off that there will be 5 charter services that will be running before Te Huia launches. So we'll be enticing Aucklanders to the Waikato by train and doing the same for Waikato residents to go up to Auckland for the weekend by train as well. We're also going to be launching a weekend service with Te Huia, purely targeted on tourism. So getting more people travelling on the weekends by rail between the two cities. So it's looking positive. And then lastly, consumer events. Look, we don't normally go to consumer events. We work with the travel trade, but we have to do what we need to do. So we're now out and about marketing ourselves, flogging the Waikato everywhere. We will next be at the Mystery Creek for the Motorhome and Caravan show, with a number of our regions as well, promoting people to come back and actually spend their money and stay in our region. So we're quite excited. It's an extra bit of work, but it's great to get government investment for the first time into regional tourism around the country.
The Tiara walkway,
Yes.
I've become aware because my son-in-law has walked he's done it all the way down to Ruapehu now.
Right.
So, but it's spectacular, the photographs that he's brought back from that walk, and if he can do it.
Well, that's a positive.
But do you...
Yes, no, so we do. So look, Te Aroha walkway, which is, for people know, it's obviously goes from the Cape all the way to Bluff. There are 2 ways you can do Te Aroha. You can obviously just walk in its entirety, which some New Zealanders are doing, or you can take breaks, which is what we're kind of promoting, is every month or maybe every summer holiday, you might take 4 weeks to walk a different section of Te Aroha. It's becoming our version of the Camino walks. So again, it was been very big for international. We probably average around 10 to 15,000 walkers somewhere on Te Aroha per month, but we're seeing those numbers increase because of COVID, with New Zealanders doing it. So yes, we do work with Te Aroha. We have some beautiful sections of Te Aroha. If you've seen the photos through the Waikato, our only problem section, I'm calling it, is North Waikato, where they've got to walk alongside the expressway from Tuakau to Mercer. It's not a very safe passage, but look, the rest of it's on farmland, beautiful hills, country, backcountry roads. So yes, no, we do. Yes. Absolutely. Yes, no, walking and cycling is really big for New Zealanders. And then lastly, look, the government want all regions by June next year to develop a destination management plan. They've released guidelines on what they want on it. The great thing I think for us is, look, we already have a tourism opportunities plan we did in 2016. It's kind of that, but it's going to be on steroids. It provides clear framework about how we should align with local government plans, which is great. We already see that, but considering you're going into your 10-year plan, and also to make sure that the aspirations for tourism also align to your district plan goals and also your community or neighbourhood plans, rather than just this one-size-fits-all approach. So look, we'll be discussing with the local government and also the community over the next few months around our destination management plan. And that's it from me. I'm happy to take any questions, but thank you for your support.
Well, a brilliant report, Jason, and congratulations on what you've been doing in a very difficult time. But we have questions. Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Jason, just in terms of existing events and what support there is, and in particular, the field days, and is there any sign of any government support for them, I suppose, in particular?
Yes, so major events are still something that there has not been any government support for. Look, Mystery Creek and definitely Field Days was able to access some funding out of the Domestic Event Fund, but again, it was, you know, not a lot compared to what they actually do need to continue. But look, we are pushing hard with Major Events New Zealand, National Field Days and the New Zealand Event Association to make sure major events also receive funding, plus all the event suppliers. Because, you know, the marquee companies, the tech guys, they're the ones that are also suffering as well, and just as much as venues. But yes, no, that is a regular push that we've got into government right now.
And so is there anything else that as a council we can do to support that?
I think, look, it'll be interesting to see how they deliver Field Days 2021. Obviously, will it be on the same scale and size? I assume it would be, so maybe it's more around some of the other auxiliary opportunities where council can help. I don't know whether they do a number of park and ride. We don't know how successful that will be this year. Commercial accommodation will be a next big one, but look, I'm sure Peter will let you all know what types of support he requires from YPAR. So,
Roger?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, I thought it was a great report, Jason, and a stronger return than really what I thought there had been. So that's positive. Some of those opportunities that you talk about in terms of promoting the Waikato, and certainly with the cycling opportunity and the river ride here, are you doing any specific promotion to that lycra brigade that we hear so much clogging up the intersections in Auckland City? I think that's a good opportunity.
yes, no, we are. So we did domestic research as well during lockdown just to see how we could position our marketing coming out of it. Look, cycling was seen as the #1 activity that Aucklanders wanted to do when they came to our region, as well as obviously experience great food and wine and some lovely accommodation. So we are targeting the cycling sector quite hard. We're working with our Great Rides, and obviously great to see Te Awa Cycleway as well being extended into Cambridge. We do see that being, the great thing about Te Awa Cycle Ride particularly is it's kind of like what we call a nursery ride. Obviously it's fully paved, it attracts families as well, not just the lovely Lycra Brigade who potentially want to go a bit off course, but obviously we also have some great mountain bike track facilities as well, close to it, within an hour's drive of Cambridge too. So look, Ride NZ is one of the projects that's on there. So Ride NZ is a cycling platform which has been pretty much hibernated for 2 years. We're bringing that back with Rotorua and Taupō and Bay of Plenty to promote cycling in the Central North Island. So the good thing is it can build itineraries based on the types of cyclist you are, whether you're a weekend road warrior or you love the nursery rides or you want to mountain bike, and it builds itineraries for you online. So we definitely want to target the cycling market quite hard.
And of course, we've got the food festival, which will fit in quite nicely with that. That they can come down, have a good ride, and have a good meal.
Absolutely. Culinary Cambridge on wheels, hopefully in November.
Good idea.
Is there a way? Yeah, we will wait and see, won't we?
Phil, do you have a question?
Yes, so just carrying on from your positivity, Destination Cambridge and the Cambridge Eyesight, we're feeling very positive there, and you know, we're at budget or above budget in a lot of our sectors, so that's really great, and we look forward to the summer coming up and making the finals of the most Keep New Zealand Beautiful. We've got a lot of profile out of that, so
absolutely.
hopefully we'll do well there. So yeah, so thank you.
It's all good, thank you.
Okay, so seems to be it. Thanks, Jason.
Thank
Great
you.
report and a lot of really good work being done still. So
Cheers.
thanks very much.
Thank you all, thank you.
Okay, so we have a recommendation on page. Thanks, Phil. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Roger.
Coffee. Yep.
All in favour? Contrary no, carried. And we'll move to item 7, the Avanti Dome update report, the first one in my memory, which is terrific. Nice. Awesome. Me either. Not as far as I know. That's great. Thanks, Steve. And welcome, Scott. Nice to meet you.
So this is Graham Ma, who's our board chair. I asked him to come along and be part of our story. So I'll just, before I start, I'd just like to reiterate the feelings you guys have towards the work Jason and his team are doing. So we're happy recipients of some fantastic work. So we came out of lockdown. That first week back, we were a little bit nervous. Numbers were a little bit light, and then the fire hose turned on. And I don't think anybody's had a day off since. So it's a happy problem to have. And it's because of the work that people like Jason do that spread the word and get people down. And quite a few from Auckland, and we've had people traveling from as far away as Christchurch to come up for weekend sessions. So we haven't seen that sort of reach before in the 2 years I've been around. So you know, whatever's happening, I'm not exactly sure we can necessarily blame Jason for all of it, but it's fantastic to have those numbers coming in. Okay, I'll see if I can make this work. My children have coached me on how to use technology, so we'll see if I get it right. Cool, okay. So what I wanted to do was just put down some headlines in terms of what's changed probably since the last time you heard from someone from the Avanti Drome. So the build cost was $32 million. We have about $1.8 million remaining debt. We're 6 years old now, so quite a nice success story. We recently had a new valuation done when we reinsured, and the current value of the property is at $52 million. And so as a result of a prudent board, we sit in a nice financial situation. So we were, I guess, I wouldn't say risk averse, but we were calculated during COVID. So we were able to retain all our staff, but also deliver a heightened level of care around the customer experience, deep cleaning. We worked with our partners, the tenants on site, to make sure that we created a work environment, but also a social environment that was inviting and people felt safe. And I think that was a key in seeing the lift in numbers that came back. So our numbers are higher now than they were this time last year, which is fantastic, despite the disruptions. Our sponsors have come back on board. So, you know, they want to back us and they believe in what we're doing. So in a time when you read a lot about sponsors exiting, because it is difficult to articulate a return on investment when in some sectors the numbers are down. Conversely, our numbers are up, and so our sponsors are engaged and happy to be part of our story, which is fantastic. We've seen some of the key events that you know, we had to postpone, to be fair, but things like CrossFit Nationals, so we've got 2 of those coming up, and indoor rowing champs. So those are marquee events that are unique to the Waipahu region. And with CrossFit Nationals, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I will. We stole those from the Bay of Plenty, and we made them ours. And so we have a multi-year commitment from the organizers of those 2 CrossFit events. So the first event is an individual event, and that'll bring about 600 competitors, plus their families, to the region for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's in October. In December, the same people plus another 400, so about 1,000 competitors, will be back for team competition. So 1,000 competitors plus their families, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's a nice domestic injection into the local economy, and it's fantastic that those event organizers are keen to work with us, and we've found a formula that allows us to be flexible and nimble in a venue that was probably never built to host CrossFit events. But through our partners and through the event organizers, we're able to bring it to life, which is fantastic. Just some numbers that I wanted to put up. You can see black is 20, I can barely see because I'm elderly, thank you. 2017, 2018, and 2019, year-on-year growth. In terms of the riders that we have in our headline programs, But the graph on my right is also showing the growth in the ages that we see. So the most exciting one is the category that I'm racing towards, the 60 plus age group. So, you know, year on year, that category is growing and growing and growing. And so we've actually had some problems. The seniors, the 60 plus group, don't really like the younger kids. So we've had a little bit of a coup in the gym, and they've thrown the kids out of the gym while they're in their sessions. So it's pretty special to have some people there that care enough about it that they actually want to take ownership of the space, and they want to take ownership of their own fitness and well-being. And so 2 days a week when those senior groups are there, they come in mass in their e-bikes. So they ride up the cliff from the Tahoe Trail, and they park their bikes, and they come in and they take over the gym. And then they after the gym sessions, they take over the cafe. So if you're in the cafe at say 11 o'clock when the senior session ends, they sort of bully you out of the table, and so you have to kind of plan your dining around those sessions. So it's really a cool thing that's happened since we've reopened after lockdown. Whoops, sorry. You know, Hazel, I'm just a few years away, and I'm expecting to be completely misbehaving and all those things. So yes, I am. Yes, I am. In term, just some headlines from 2019. So just under 37,000 community rides on the track. So that's not 37,000 individuals. I wish it was, but certainly the facility is being used. So you know, every hour that we're open, there's people on the track, and that ranges from 10-year-old kids through to the elite athletes, through to, you know, people my age that are just trying to keep things at bay in terms of increasing waist sizes and those sorts of things. 2019, 4,500 gym visits. So that's a lot of people. It's not the biggest gym I've ever seen in the world, but you know, we started out with 25 members 5 years ago, and now we've got 4 times that, and they're making use of the facility. So again, you know, we've branched out from being a velodrome into being a fitness and wellness center, which is fantastic, and a point where the community connects. We have, in terms of the walkers along the concourse, you know, we trust them to check in with us when they come in, so the number's perhaps a little bit higher than it actually represents, because some people like to sneak upstairs without the gold coin donation. But we see close to 2,000 people walking along the concourse, and you know, that's pretty special. Those are all sorts of different age groups, and Sport Waikato is involved in bringing different groups to the Avanti Drome to walk, and there's sort of a code of conduct that's appeared. So people will walk for about an hour, and they've decided that at 30 minutes they all change direction and walk the opposite way. So if you're swimming against the tide, there's a chance you're going to have to deal with it. And so again, you know, people taking charge of their own fitness and well-being, which was pretty cool to see. We're now the largest.
So when you walk around the top there, it's 400 meters, isn't it? The track's 250.
Yeah, the track's 250. It's a little bit under 400 meters, but there's a couple of people. Some of you may know Peter Carr.
Yep.
He insists it's a full kilometer around the top of the concourse, but don't tell Peter I said that. But we'll just.
Before wine or after wine?
I couldn't possibly comment. Peter's a friend, so I don't want to get him in trouble. But it's not a kilometer, just between friends. In terms of elite athletes accessing the facility, we're now the largest accessed training site in New Zealand. So we have about 180 carded high-performance athletes that use the services, anything from the medical center to sports psychology to the gym. Not our infield gym, but there's a dedicated high-performance gym. Biomechanics testing, nutrition, skin caliper testing, heat acclimation, all sorts of different things. So wandering around the hallways of the Avanti Drome, it's like the who's who of New Zealand sport now. And while it's exciting, it has created a little bit of a parking issue for us at times, but it's a great problem to have. So we've, you know, that's full credit to our partners like High Performance Sport New Zealand and Cycling New Zealand, who have worked very closely with us to create an environment that's conducive to these athletes doing what they need to deliver on that crescendo moment. And it's just fantastic to see. And when these athletes come into the facility, they don't come in and just do their own thing. They connect with other people. So when the athletes are coming off the track, we have that kind of a world-renowned trike program that operates in the infield. And so the high-performance athletes, when it's safe from a COVID perspective, are high-fiving those trike riders. And so there's good news flowing both ways. And so there's a bit of an inspiration happening on both sides of that coin. And so it's not the rarefied air that I would have seen in the States where, they're kind of sequestered and one doesn't talk to the other. It's very much a meeting in the hallway and, hey, what's going on? And lots of slapping on the back and high fives and fist pumps and all those good things. So it's pretty cool. It's great to be part of. In our meeting rooms, so we have 3 meeting rooms on site. I know council's used them a few times, and you'll be pleased to know that we're about to invest in upgrading some of the IT, because that's a real roll of the dice at the moment in terms of whether or not it works, but we are going to fix that. So I'd love to have you guys back for some more meetings. But we see bookings about 700 hours a year in the function rooms, and once we do the upgrades and a little bit more marketing, we'll see that grow to closer to 1,000. And so that's one of our big targets for this current year. Last year, 2019, we had 2 major international events, so 2 World Cup cycling events. And I would encourage all of you, if you're ever thinking about hosting 2 major international events in one calendar year, I would recommend you don't do it. The gray hair is specifically from those 2 events. But we also held 5 major national events, national championship events. And so that saw close to 15,000 spectators through our venue. Those events are traditionally staged by our partner Cycling New Zealand, and then we provide the venue, but we partner with them to ensure that the venue is up to speed and that the security protocols are in place and everything is there so that effectively the event organizer has a perfect blank canvas up on the wall, and they can put forward a bespoke experience for the spectators and for the athletes, and that becomes our very best marketing tool. Is when we support great events, it goes global, and as a result, we end up with teams like Canada was here last year for 6 weeks training, so they can train anywhere in the world, but they choose to come and train at our venue, and the same with other teams that are also knocking on the door as soon as they can travel. They want to come down. Our track is fast, the community's embracing, their dollars are strong here, and it's the right environment. The roads for them to train on around the Waipa are some of the best in the world. They can be flat, they can be hilly, they can be windy, not windy, whatever they need to stimulate different training outcomes. So, fantastic. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'll keep moving. So this is a little bit about who uses the track. There's often a lot of talk. The track is only just for elite athletes, but the little green sliver is elite athletes, and the black sliver is regional performance hubs. Those are pre-elite athletes. The big part of the pie is the community, and so through our junior program, through our racing, through our different outreach activities, the high performance part, they pay for the use. Nobody gets in for free, but it is really a community facility that happens to be utilized by high performance athletes. It's not the other way around. And just something worth clarifying, because it is something that people sometimes forget about. They might stop in and they might only see the high performance athletes, and they think, well, what happens the rest of the day? A whole bunch of stuff happens the rest of the day. So there's hundreds of school kids that go through that place every month. There's hundreds of people my age. There's hundreds of moms and dads and all kinds of people that come by and they use the facility, particularly when it's wet. So when we see bad weather coming, we get quite happy, a bit like farmers, I think.
Phil.
Just on that, you guys have done that really well, because we'll all remember that, particularly the older generation really poo-hooed this,
Sure.
spending this, and to see that community use, well, we know that community use is right up there. You guys have done that really well, and
Thank you.
the community have just embraced it. They love it, and they love all the athletes here, and it's fantastic for the economy and jobs and everything, so it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's thank you. It's quite an interesting story. Having been involved with some velodromes overseas, we I'll take full credit for it. We sort of created a sport, so in Cambridge 6 years ago, cycling wasn't what it is now. And track cycling in Cambridge was non-existent. And right now we have 571 active track cyclists using our facility, constantly. And that came from, a size of 0 in 6 years. And so it's interesting that the kids came in first, and then the kids bullied their parents, and then their parents bullied their friends. And so we've seen this sort of continuous growth year on year. And every year, I sit down with Graham and I say, this is as good as it's going to get. How many more people can ride on the track? How many more people are going to shoot the lock off the wallet and buy a bunch of Lycra and turn circles on a piece of wood? But every year, the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so Graham's given me a little bit of a challenge for when we hit 2021. He wants to see my strategy to take us from 571 active riders to 1,000. So it's a big challenge, and I can see some more gray hairs coming in on my head at the moment. But hey, we're up for it, and I've got the team to make it happen.
My experience over there has been coming to a birthday party, and then as we were leaving, all the disabled riders were arriving, and I thought, this is just amazing. And those number of disabled, and thoroughly enjoying themselves, laughing and having a great time. I just thought it was spectacular.
It's pretty special. We've just, as we've worked through the COVID situation, we've just reopened the trike program in the last couple of weeks. It is a higher touch program, and we want to make sure that those people are safe. And some of them, they may not necessarily understand the precautions required. And so we've kept the group sizes relatively small, but it is fantastic to see them back in the track and whipping around. And we've got a couple competitions coming up with some of the regular riders. So they like to taunt us and challenge us to try and beat them and how far we can ride in an hour. So we've got there's one rider in particular that stops outside my office, and he likes to stop, and he gets off his trike and he points up at me, and he says, "You're next, old man." And then he gets back on his trike and rides around. So it's we've created something quite special in that trike program, and it is absolutely a point of difference for us. So what does the future look like for us? So Jason talked about some of the events that he's seen go by the wayside, and we've gone through a phase where we've canceled quite a few of our in-house events, and quite a few of the national events have been canceled, race series, etc. So my team's built regional races and regional competitions, and we've run a few of them now, and we found that these are a little bit more resistant to roving COVID issues. And so while Auckland may not be able to travel as much as they would like, other parts of New Zealand can. So we've created our big thing that we're launching in later on in October is the track ashes. So we stole something out of cricket, and we've taken a bunch of track timber, and we've had it made into a cup. And we took some of the timber and we burned it, and we put the ashes in the cup. And so we went out to other different parts of New Zealand, and we said, okay, so who's up for it? And so Auckland came back and they said, we want to be the first. And they said, but it's not fair because we can't train on the track. And our response was, well, when you win the cup, you can make the rules, but right now it's our cup. And so yeah, well, it's kind of we did steal a chapter, and so we've got Wellington's lined up and Christchurch is lined up as well. They all want to have a crack at this Ashes series, and so they'll be so we're future-proof for a couple of years to come with this thing. And so in the Waikato, we've got riders secretly training, secretly booking track time. Because people aren't goofing around. Guys have bought special gear, and they're really taking it to the next level. And so I would bet my home on the fact that we will retain, well, maybe Graham's home, that we will retain the track ashes. But it's destined to, like, people in Australia are talking about it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So it's something that we're doing differently to break the rules a little bit and be a little bit maverick, and generate some interest for something that, in the past, perhaps people weren't super excited about watching people turn left on wood. but now they are, and they want to be part of it. So it's fantastic. Also wanted to talk about the partnerships, which I've already touched on with people like Cycling New Zealand and High Performance Sport New Zealand. The partnership was rock solid and fantastic, and then we went into lockdown, and it went to another level. So we sat down as not as organizations, but as people that wanted to create a safe workforce or safe workplace, a safe place for people to come and train and ride and get back to whatever they could in terms of normality. And without them, we wouldn't have had the reach and the expertise to be able to do that. So High Performance Sport New Zealand, national scope, came in with a lot of expertise from all around the country to help us build our protocols and processes that enabled everyone to have to come back and be safe. And those protocols have stretched through everything that we do, including our deep cleaning processes, everything to make sure that people can come into the venue, feel and hear that they're in the right place and that we care about their safety and well-being. So full credit to them. I mentioned earlier the fitness facility and the problem that we have with too many people coming in. So we're about to invest in expanding that facility. So we've got some great partners that have come in that want to support us and help us with equipment and some expertise. So we've got new coaches, and we're launching all sorts of new programs, and those will all come in, and those will help us increase the number of people that are chasing fitness in the new year and as we move on. Also, we've been really fortunate. We're one of the first velodromes in the world to reopen, and so that we were able to use that to sort of get I guess some extra airtime for event promoters. And so we've got event promoters all around the world now that want to stage things like CrossFit, but also cycling events at a venue that's now been up and running for months, where some venues, big marquee venues around the world, are still closed. And so that's been great, and it's led to the ability to connect with these other venues globally and promoters to help drive our capability. So we can learn from people that have been in the game for some velodromes have been around since the early 1900s. So what have they learned? A thing or two. We've only been around for 6 years, so it's great. It's been a great opportunity for us to learn and build our capability. And then just the last thing that I wanted to touch on is progressive board, which is why I wanted Graham to come along. So our board changes with some regularity, and Graham's our board chair, and so we're absolutely driven to do things different. And Graham's given me not a blank checkbook, but he's given me increased authority, I'll just say, to leverage the growth that we've seen over the last few months and the positive attributes that we've been able to bring out of the COVID crisis and go forth and do things differently, like the track ashes, like growing the size of our gym, like investing in our function rooms. And so, full credit to the board for having the vision to not so much sit on our hands, but go, okay, what happened. Great, we've got some runs on the board, but let's do something with it. And so, but we're doing it in a way where we're future-proofed. So things like these regional events, things like connecting with overseas event promoters and overseas federations to ensure that there's a consistent conduit of business development opportunities effectively coming into the Avantidrome sets us up for, whoever comes along after me will inherit something that's robust and healthy.
Fantastic. I was reflecting a little way through your presentation. We haven't seen you guys for 6 years that you've been open. In one way, that's probably a really good thing, because it means that you're doing okay.
Yes.
And I didn't really know what to expect, but that was a great update. Really enjoyed it, and I'd love to see the imagination you're bringing to what you're doing there, and involving the community is fantastic. So Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, have you ever had the comment or had any flack that Hamilton claim it as their facility? That's one that I'm being a bit facetious there.
No.
Well, earlier on they did, because they didn't contribute a hell of a lot of money to it, but they thought it was pretty good when it was built.
Yeah, they didn't, and we're crystal clear on who helped us and who didn't.
Oh, thank you. The other question is, do you have any plans to expand the tenancy? Because around one side past the bikery, it may have filled up now, but there were thoughts of doing something there.
Yeah, so we have, there's several plans that were drawn up back in the day, and those are very much active, and the board is looking now at what phase 2 might look like. And so we're in pretty regular conversation with national entities in terms of who might those cornerstone tenants look like, and what might the Avantidrome 2.0 represent for the community. Are we focused solely on sport, or are we starting to look at our role in the community as a wellness center, and how do all those pieces fit together? And we're through people like Peter Carr, more and more we're connecting with retirement villages, and they want us to offer more diverse, more challenging. They're pushing us to do more, and so over the next 12 to 24 months, I don't think it would be unreasonable that we would have some announcements on some next stages. Yeah, of course.
That was just a nice little introduction for me just to say a few words. And my first one is...
Sorry, Graham, just...
sorry, you need me on a microphone, do you?
Thanks, yeah.
I can stand up and shout. My first one is to thank Scott. Great presentation, mate. Thank you. I just get to see that on a slide deck. But to thank him for the work that he's done since taking on the role of General Manager 2 years ago. Secondly, to thank Waipa District Council enormously. I sit here obviously because of Home of Cycling, but actually the backstory is I sit in Waipa and Waikato only because, or initially because of the Home of Cycling, and that story is why I moved all the way from England, first of all to Cambridge, and then found a wife, and she had 3 kids, and I happened to stay. But it literally is because of the build of the velodrome of the Home of Cycling. So to be chair 6 years on, or 7 years on, from when those first meetings took place is incredible, and a real privilege to then start to lead what Scott's roughly described as phase 2. And to really credit a forward-looking council and other partners, of course, there are other people involved, but a forward-looking council. I got invited to Cambridge 7.5 years ago when the thing was a drawing on a piece of paper, and I had a meeting at St. Peter's School, which members of this council or predecessors would have been involved in. And the forward-looking now has seen the build of recreation trails around the Greenbelt. It's seen the redevelopment of a swimming pool into really what is the home of sport in New Zealand. So we recognise, yes, a Waipa facility, maybe a Hamilton or Waikato facility. We recognise a national facility, and through the work of Scott and his predecessors, we've got a facility on the international and the global map, and you've seen some statistics to do with that. My but line, because I'm the negative one of the pairing, is that we've done quite well, and your appreciation, and enthusiasm for what you've just seen is really is great. But we've done quite well. I can thank my predecessors on the board for giving us a very strong financial platform. We will be one of the few national sporting facilities that actually turns a small surplus every year on an operating basis, aside from some of our sponsorships. And therefore, we've got what was a significant debt, and you could say community debt, whether financial or in principle, down to a very manageable size at a time when our interest rates are very, very low. So financially, we're nicely placed for the board to say to Scott, look, let's look at some reinvestment that allows us then to grow. So you've seen some numbers that showed roughly 60,000 user experiences during the year. My challenge to Scott is not just to take the rider numbers on the track from 600 to 1,000, because ultimately 250 meters of wood has got a limited usage capacity. You can only put a certain number of people. But what if that 60,000 user experiences was 100,000 or 120,000? What does that mean to a community? So mention of things like CrossFit and like indoor rowing, great. Expansion of the gym. We currently service the cycling hub and the rowing regional performance center. But I also chair the Adastra Foundation. We think there's about 350 emerging young people in the region who could do with gym access. So currently we service about 100 of them. What if we had 350 coming into our facility? What if we got more of those retirement villages engaged? What if we had more spectator events? What if we had more small conference facility? So what if that 60,000 was 100,000 or 150,000? I've worked at the back to where Whitewater Park, where they have 2,500 local school children going through subsidized programs every year. What if that was the velodrome? If I told you the Vodafone Arena, that's about 30,000. So what if that's at what is considered a velodrome, and what if that expansion that was asked about over here does take place, and we actually do become the home of sport? We're already 180 carded athletes. We are the centre for sport in the country. What if we had more governing bodies? I brought triathlon to Cambridge, the National Triathlon Program, not because we ride on a track, but because it was the best place to be. So what if alongside cycling and rowing and triathlon and canoeing, there's conversations with the school about golf, there's conversations about equestrian, who else could base themselves? Waikato Rugby looking for a new home. Who else could base themselves out of a facility? So that's our challenge for phase 2. Some of it may just be improving our current business operations and seeing where the new revenue streams are, and some of it may be expanding our facility. And I certainly wouldn't intend it to be another 6 years before we talk to you again, because it's an exciting time. So we're re-engaging with a number of our initial stakeholders. We've got a meeting in 2 weeks' time with Alistair Jones, Vice-Chancellor of the university. They've got some ambitions in sport, as we know. They've got a small foothold in the facility. What if it was bigger? AUT operated a whole postgraduate faculty out of the Millennium Institute for Sport and Health. So what if we could leverage some of those things and extend that community use? We protect the high performance side and extend the community use. And my final credit then is Scott's done all of that. He's got a full-time staff of 4 people. So it's a great credit to all of that team. Thank you, and thank you guys for your support, and we'll definitely want to be keeping in touch. So.
Brilliant. Well, great to meet you both, and awesome facility, obviously, but great to see it being utilised and managed so well. So, yeah, fantastic. Is any other comments? Or it looks like we're all very happy.
Yeah, I'd only confirm the comments around the table, and thanks you guys for coming. It's it is I suppose I was going to say it's a big relief for council when something goes this well after all the flag. I wasn't around when the decision was made to build it. Well, very thankful it was, and it's fantastic to see such a positive result. So, hey, thanks for all the efforts, and great for the community. Fantastic, yeah.
Phil.
And just quickly, your partnership with St Peters is really critical for you guys too, because you mentioned the equestrian and golf, and then you've got the cross-country track around the boundary of the farm down the Waikato River too, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, all those partnerships, they're a great host. I'm on their trust board as well. But they're a great host, but the partnership with the university, the partnership with you guys, Cycling New Zealand, they're all critical partnerships. High Performance Sport New Zealand, it's not long since UK Sport, the equivalent, pretty much moved out of their main offices in London to get out of paying capital city rent. So where does the future lie in their support? So relationship with St Peters is very, very healthy. Thank you.
Yep. And it's the cheapest bit of land in the Waikato, buying it for $1. Yeah.
You wouldn't know. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation on page 48. Phil, like to move. Elwin second. All in favour? Aye. Contrary, no.
No.
It is carried. Awesome. Item 8, ladies. Nada and... Right. Nada. Okay.
Right, good afternoon everyone. We have the financial results for the end of August, and at that stage the operating income was currently at 14% of forecast, and the total operating expenditure is at 13% of the forecast. The capital expenditure was 15.9 million, which is 9% of the forecast. We have a total capital forecast budget of 186 million, set for the year at this stage. There was no budget changes at this stage and no arbitrage arrangements made. Rates of 65.9 million have been set for the year. We have an outstanding from prior years of 340,000 and the balance outstanding of 910 for the current year. And the water rates, we have 3 million that's been invoiced for the year and 1.3 million of that is still outstanding. And then I take the rest of it as being read. That's pretty much it for this report. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Nada. Yeah, any questions? I had a couple of queries which have been answered. Thank you very much.
That's right.
But yeah, there's nothing further then, I guess.
Great. Short, sweet.
Right. And it was easy.
Yeah, like those ones.
Thanks.
Okay.
Do I have a mover, please, for the recommendation on page 51? Double check that. Jim, thank you. Seconded by Claire. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, no.
Thank
Carried.
you.
Thanks, Nada. Okay, we have a resolution to exclude the public, please. Can I declare, Lou and seconded by Claire. All in favour?